There's the latest commotion on Twitter, and the latest topic to create commotion has been this story about teens trying to summon a demon named Charlie. I kid you not. The Charlie Challenge surfaced this week on Twitter and has now gone viral across social media platforms. The challenge includes putting two pencils on a piece of paper in the shape of a cross. The words yes and no are written in boxes outlined by the pencils. Then the participants say, "Charlie, Charlie, are you here?" And social media users have been uploading videos summoning Charlie. And some of these are a little creepy, to be honest with you, if you've gone to YouTube and checked this out. And we're going to talk to Carl Gallups about this. Talk show host, author, Pastor Carl Gallups. Final Warning is his latest book. He's got a number of very interesting books out there. And Carl's been on with us before. Interesting topic to chat with him about. Carl, good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning, Doug. I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me back on. It's always a delight to be with you.
Yeah, we wanted to get your perspective on this. Is this the modern-day Ouija board for the young people here? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, no, I think so. And, of course, with today's social media, you can really hype something up quickly and make it go, what's our new word now, viral, and all over the world. And that's what's happening here. Let me tell you, Doug, this conversation is great, and I'm so honored that you asked me to be a part of it because it opens up several doors of conversation. But let me just say, I've done some experiments with this, and I think people are being punked. Let me just tell you, on my desk in front of me, I have the two pencils set up, and the one on the top that's balanced is easily moved by just a puff of air. And let me tell you, in every one of these situations, I went and looked at these videos, there's always somebody filming it, and they're always very close to the whole thing. And so I held my phone up and pretended like I was filming it, and just kind of started breathing a little heavy, but indiscernible to anybody around. And the pencil moves so easily, so easily.
I tend to agree that this is, these are all fake, these videos. But I think what bothers me too, Carl, is the fact that the kids are doing this anyway. Like, right? I mean, because there is at least a lot of us believe there's something out there besides ourselves, and that there's some good and evil out there, and it bothers me the kids are sort of going to this direction.
Well, exactly, Doug. And listen, this is why I said this conversation opens up so many biblical, spiritual, real avenues of fact. Because, Doug, as you said, here's the deal. You know, I come from a biblical worldview, and you do too. So that means we understand what the Word of God says about these things. You know, is there a spiritual realm, that is another dimension of reality? Well, absolutely there is. Now, in case people are listening saying, "Oh, that's just that religious junk." Look, the world is filled with examples. In my first book, I wrote Magic Man in the Sky. I used an example there that has just gone all over the world and has become classic, and I think I'm the first to ever use it. I believe the Lord gave it to me many years ago. I've been using it. But consider a fish pond in the middle of a field, and underneath the surface of that pond is a world of reality. To the fish and everything that lives in it, that's all they know as reality. But yet, just through the surface of the water and out into the world around it, in another dimension of absolute flesh and blood reality, physical reality, there exists an entire universe of reality that the fish are unaware of. Yet, the two realities exist side by side, one reality, the fish, totally unaware of the huge reality that exists all around them. I mean, the fish in the bottom of that pond has never seen a skyscraper and cities and children on bicycles and airplanes and space shuttles and computers. They can't fathom the internet world and space shuttles and trips to the moon and satellites in outer space. But yet it all exists all around them, and they have no idea. Now, the Word of God tells us that something similar exists in the world of God's creation and reality, that there are multiple dimensions, if you will, of reality, just like the fish pond and the world around it. And so what you and I would say, Doug, to people is, look, even though people are more than likely 99% of the time in this with these two pencils, they're being punked. It's so easy to manipulate. It's a trick.
Yeah, and they're actually, it's not just religious people that think there's another reality. I mean, even physicists. I remember Scientific America's had a number of stories that maybe what we're living in is sort of a shadow of a larger sort of reality, which would be exactly what you're talking about there.
Exactly. Yes, the study of quantum mechanics has proven physically and scientifically that there are various levels, if you will, or dimensions of what we know as reality. The quantum particles, the smallest particles that we know of that make up the smallest particles of an atom, and the energy field within them. We know that they react with laws and rules that are completely different than what we know as the natural laws of the universe. However, the laws and rules with which those quantum particles work, that's what holds the rest of us together.
Yeah, I mean, right, I don't understand all of it, the mathematics and everything, but I mean, physicists will tell you there are at least 10 dimensions out there, 4 that we know and maybe 6 that we don't know, right, but can be detected in some sort of other means. So 4 being what? Space, time, and, linked with all that stuff. So
right. Well,
the ones we live in other words.
Exactly. And, of course, going to what you're asking here, Doug, and we'll get back on point here, is that since we've settled the fact that the Bible speaks of this reality, the Word of God does, and you and I come from a biblical worldview, and since science backs up the fact that there are multiple dimensions and levels of reality, and the Word of God tells us that. Jesus warned us that. The Word of God warns us to be very, very careful to stay away from these dimensions of reality that can invite evil into our lives. And so even though I think 99% of these things on the Internet, it's gone so crazy because if it wasn't and Facebook, these things...
It's everywhere now. I mean, after I saw the story. Well, and the other thing, too, Carl, is that... people who kind of got into this demonology stuff, many of them did start with the Ouija boards of our generation. And kind of, went from there. I don't know what's next. Book of Charms. I mean, it's, like you're saying, it's a lot of, fake stuff going on here, but it's interesting the young people, right, into this realm that probably they really shouldn't be involved in. I think that's it.
Exactly, and that's the point. And I find it interesting, Doug, that you've got a world that wants to, by and large, the secular world, the atheist world, the evolution pseudoscientific believing world, they want to deny any element of spirituality. So you've got these people all over the world now acknowledging, even though they're being punked, they're seeking to connect with another world. They're playing games with it. They're videoing it. They're putting one pencil, of all things, Doug, putting a pencil on top of a pencil, and because somebody breathes a little heavy on it, it moves. They all scream.
Yeah, but the significance,
it's real.
Carl, the significance is that the pencils are in the shape of a cross, right? I mean, that's... Right, that's the significance, I think. We'll pick up on this in just a moment. Carl Gallups is with us, and carlgallups.com is his website. His latest book is Final Warning. He's got 2 other books that also did very well. He's one of Amazon's best-selling authors, and 783. Carl Gallups is with us here, author, talk show host, and pastor, discussing this. That article, by the way, I was talking about the shadow of a larger reality of our universe, was in Scientific American. It was a 2005 article. They have had a number, you can just Google it, about, as Carl mentioned, quantum physics, about dimensions of time and dimensions of this and that. Kind of interesting if you got some kind of physics background to understand all of it. I think, Carl, one of the big discoveries, though, was the fact that everything's digital, right? I mean, that we live in a digital universe now. Everything, DNA is digital. It's not... I think that was a shock to some people, right? And that was a huge discovery that's really changed the way even physicists are looking at everything.
Oh, absolutely, and this is something I've been screaming for years. Our world is extremely mathematical, extremely complex, irreducibly complex, and when it's examined at the quantum level, which still we haven't gotten to the bottom of that, no pun intended, it's mathematical. It is. And so that doesn't happen from a cosmic, random, accidental, unintentioned, unpurposed explosion.
Yeah, because mathematics, and I like where you're going with that, because mathematics is the only exact science. All these other sciences, we hear these people talking about global warming or climate change, all that. Those are observable sciences. They have assumptions that have to be played into them, but mathematics doesn't have assumptions. It's just 2 + 2 is still 4. They always will be.
Yeah, and you mentioned DNA, and now what we know. See, the more that real science progresses, I'm talking about observable, demonstrable, repeatable, falsifiable. That's scientific method, as you know. The more that real science advances, the more that we discover. For example, DNA. we know that is highly complex. In fact, junk DNA that scientists call portions of the DNA material for years, they called it junk DNA because it seemed to have no purpose whatsoever. Well, now we've discovered that component of DNA has amazing purpose to it. The structure of who we are and what every living thing is and what it's supposed to be and what it's going to be is all embedded in a mathematical code of language. Now, language and mathematical codes don't happen accidentally. There is an intelligent designer behind this amazing design. Now we get back to the discussion at hand. Therefore, that designer has told us in his word that there are multiple dimensions of reality. Well, guess what? In the last 100 years, man has discovered, wow, there are multiple dimensions of reality. And, of course, now we're talking about the spirit realm. Now, this Charlie thing, it's going crazy only because there's such thing as social media, but it's a punk game. People are being punked. It's a trick. I've done it right here on my desk in front of me. It's so easy to manipulate. Whoever's filming it can easily do it, and even if they're not filming it, if they can be slick about it, it just takes a breath, just a puff from your mouth, anywhere close, and it moves
right.
the pencil.
And I agree with you. I think I'm sure that it's these people are trying to fake us out here. But the Ouija board, same thing though. You move that Ouija board. Remember that? I mean, everybody tried it at least once, right?
Yeah. But there's two people involved in manipulation and everything. So, but here's what I say to folks: look, the fascination with contacting the occult, the spirit world, and that's where I was going with all this, has been around since the beginning of time. I mean, whether it's 8 balls or throwing dice or Ouija boards or other, mystical interpretations of pulling a leaf off a tree and tearing it in half, and whichever way it tears, it's a yes or a no. And I mean, it's just, this goes
wow, I thought that was science. I didn't realize that was...
yeah. So the point I'm trying to make is this, and this is the most important biblical point. Look, I tell young people, look, I understand childish games and tricks and punking each other. I don't look for demons under every rock. I don't think demons are the answer to everything that goes wrong in life. I am a pastor. I used to be a cop, an investigator. I know the scriptures. I've been preaching and teaching for 30 years. I have best-selling books. I'm all over TV and radio. So I'm somewhat of an expert in this. And what I'm trying to say is that, look, I tell people, it's interesting to me that even though we live in a world where people try to deny the reality of the spiritual and deny the reality of God, but yet they're quick to try to conjure up the spirit world, quick to put a pencil on top of a pencil and hope something will speak to them. See, this speaks, Doug, to the innate desire of the human being to connect with the Creator. And I'm saying to folks, look, turn to Christ, turn to the light, turn to the Word of God, quit playing around with the darkness. A pencil on top of a pencil is probably a fake trick, but there is a reality, and if you want it bad enough and open it up bad enough, and what they're kind of doing is, quote, praying for Charlie to show up. I mean, if you start getting involved in that with your heart and mind and soul, this little trick is like a gateway drug. It can lead to deeper and darker things. We do know that severe alcohol abuse, severe drug abuse can open up all kinds of different dimensions and realities and worlds, and people that have been really messed up on that speak of the voices they hear and the people that they see and the demons that they see and deal with. Well, why do you think we call it? When somebody's dealing with the demon of addiction, people will say that.
Well, why do we call alcohol spirits?
Yeah, exactly. So this is my concern. The pencil on top of a pencil, I've got it right here on my desk. It's fake. It's a punk game. No big deal. But the social media is driving it crazy. But it does open up the conversation for people, as I would say, look, turn to the truth, turn to the light, turn to Christ.
Very, very good. Carl, thank you for being on to talk about this.
Thank you.
I bet you never thought you'd be talking about a Twitter game that's...
Well, let me say, when you guys first asked me to come on, I had heard a little bit about it, and I said, well, let me check into this. So I did a lot of...
There are videos all over the place on this.
Oh, yeah, videos and articles, most of them, by the way, coming out of the UK. That's interesting because the UK has pretty much become a secular society from top to bottom. And it seems like the UK media is extremely fascinated by this, which is kind of scary spiritually and biblically as well. So anyway, I mean, we could talk about this for hours because there are all kinds of biblical implications. But to your listeners, this little pencil game is nothing more than a cheap little parlor trick. I can make it work right here on my desk very easily.
All right.
Yeah, guys, they actually have Jedi in England. Great Britain is an official language. If you love Star Wars, then you can actually, that's an actual religion, Jedi.
Mirror, mirror on the wall.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
And I love Star Wars, but it's not... I definitely don't worship Star Wars.
I've known people who look like that guy, Yoda.
I did not say that. I did not. That was Doug Kellett.
Okay. Carl, thank you, sir. Great having you on.
Thank you, Doug. God bless you.
You too.
Have a wonderful day.
CarlGallups.com, his website. Final Warning, his latest book. Traffic and Weather Together.